The problem with the murder of a prima ballerina in the costume room isn't that she's dead. It's very few people liked her. But the problem is that everyone thinks the wrong person did it. Join me in exploring the fascinating world of professional ballet and murder mysteries with Lori Robbins as we discuss Murder in the First Position, book 1 in the On Pointe series in Blackbird Writers Presents Author Interviews. I'm Sharon Lynn, and welcome, Lori.
Thank you so much for having me for this interview today.
I'm so glad you could make it. I just loved this book, and as you know, I worked at a ballet for 4 years, and I was reading this, and I'm like, oh yes, 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 yes. This is great. I could not put it down. So whether you are a fan of ballet or not, when you read this, this is what the world of ballet is like, except for the murder. We didn't have any murders. So for our fans who don't know dance or ballet, can you explain to us what on pointe means, and then also first position?
Sure. So when ballerinas dance in pointe shoes and then they rise to the very tips of their toes, anytime they do that, that's dancing on pointe. And it's a huge thrill when you get to do this for the first time. It's something that every young dancer longs for and admires in the older dancers. It's also rather painful until your feet get used to it. And after that, it's very natural. It's like a tennis player with a racket or a skater, on the ice. It just almost becomes part of your body. And yeah, so ballet, just to keep going, is based on 5 positions, as you might guess from the titles of my books. And so there are 5 positions for the feet and 5 for your arms. And audiences might not know this, but every turn and every jump in classical dance begins and ends in one of these 5 positions. So you might not be aware that that's the case, but if you see a dancer who hits those positions very cleanly, that person is incredibly exciting to watch. So that kind of explains the titles and a little bit of background.
Yeah, that's wonderful. One of the things I didn't know, even though I took dance when I was little, but you can't have little kids on pointe. It messes up their bodies. Was that there's wood in the tips of the pointe shoes.
Well, actually, not anymore.
Really?
Not anymore. It is all it used to be that in the very beginning, and then they moved to just stiffening the pointe shoes with glue and different kinds of fabric. But now it's some kind of space age material for the latest iteration of pointe shoes. And I wish we had them when I was younger. Well, I'm still doing pointe, but if I had it when I was younger, they're more flexible and also stronger. So they've been huge.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Now, do they last longer? I worked at the ballet when it was the 90s, and so every performance you had to have a new pair of pointe shoes.
And that is still the case.
Still the case.
Yes. Well, especially for performances, because you want something light and flexible, and that automatically is going to limit how long you can wear it. Was there pointe shoes for a class or for everyday use? Those are going to last longer.
Okay. All right. So obviously you have a background in ballet. Can you tell us a little bit about that career?
Yes, well, actually, my background is about as unconventional as it can be for a professional dancer. I should never have had a career because I took lessons very briefly as a child, and my parents really couldn't afford to send me to class. And the school offered me a scholarship, and my parents were horrified at the thought that I would pursue this as a career. So I wasn't allowed to take any kind of dance class, but I just somehow never gave up hope that I could do it someday. We moved around a lot, but when we finally got back to New York City and I was 16 years old, I got a job and I just started training. Um, uh, my parents did continue their opposition. I left home at 17
Wow.
and studied at the Martha Graham School and at the New York Conservatory. So I was a modern dancer and a ballet dancer. And I got my first job, I guess it was at 19, in a modern company in Miami. And I studied with the Miami Ballet. And after that, I was kind of off to the races. I was never going to dance with a big company. I was too old and I didn't really have the background. But I was with the Des Moines Ballet and the St. Louis Ballet and Ballet Hispanico. And I did a fair amount of commercial work with Pavlova perfume and for Macy's. And honestly, that paid the bills much more reliably than being on stage.
Yeah.
And then here's my third act. I stopped dancing. I had a big family. I became an English teacher. And then I went back to dance 10 years ago. And that's exactly where I was before this interview.
All right.
Yes.
That is absolutely wonderful. Yeah, it's as I mentioned that there was a school at the ballet company where I was, and so many of the parents are just like get in there, do it, go, go, go. There's so much pressure that they put on their kids. And one of the things I loved about your book is that Leah's mom is a scholar and is not at all a typical stage mom. And so I was kind of wondering how that backstory affected Leia's actions.
Actually, quite a lot. First of all, her mother is probably my favorite character. Just because she's so funny and she's so complicated, and Barbara's got layers to
She
her.
does.
And we do uncover more and more as the books go on. I have to be careful with her. She just wants to take over. She's like the Mercutio of my books. I'm constantly having to get her off stage. And I'm thinking I might have to just give her a short story or something to keep her happy.
For a whole
But
other series.
yes, exactly. Honestly, though, you've actually tapped into something that was very central to Leah's character, because she believes, rightly or wrongly, that she's disappointed her parents by not pursuing an academic career or like a life of the mind, kind of the way her sister has done, her very perfect sister, whom she adores.
Love the perfect sister.
Yes, but she says more than once, Leah says, "Oh, I'm not like the rest of my brainy family." And we know how smart she is, but she doesn't.
Yeah.
She does not. And you know how families label their kids. Oh, you're the smart one, the pretty one, you're the athlete, you're the charmer. So she's put herself in that hole. But I don't know. We'll decide for ourselves whether or not she belongs there.
Well, I definitely got the feeling that her sister didn't feel like she belonged there.
Yeah, that's right. And when you are writing a first person, like a first person narrator, you do have that. How do you get to things about the character that she may not even know about herself?
Yeah.
So yes, that the sister is a very important foil for Leah.
Yeah, absolutely. And also a lovely character. I really enjoyed her. So from the first sentence, you present Leah as driven, she's a loner, um, which is accurate for a prima ballerina. How many times have you heard people say, I had no idea that's what ballet was like, versus my reaction, which was perfect depiction?
Well, you are very much revealing your own dance background with that, I think. Um, because dancers say that I've nailed it, warts and all. I think that non-dancers might wonder how much is exaggerated. And the answer is not much, other than
Very, very
Merlin.
little.
Not much. I have to admit that it does bother me when dance is portrayed on screen or in books very inaccurately. So I tried very hard. I did not want that to happen in my book. I I do think, however, that even though the details are very specific to the book, but the emotions are, we all feel those things in maybe a different setting. Like we've all felt lonely, or maybe we're worried about losing a job, as she is, or a lover, or we've got a poisonous coworker. In my books, that's always literal. And or just, like an unsympathetic boss, maybe somebody's betrayed us. So in this very dramatic context of a ballet company, I think those situations kind of grab your emotions in a different way.
Yeah, I think, definitely as a broader picture, everybody has experienced something like that. We just in these books get the added bonus of learning about ballet. One of my favorite things about the dancers was how embarrassed they were by their feet. Or, it's like when Cynthia Lee retired, she's like, I'm going to wait 6 months and then I'm going to get a pedicure because she just would not let anyone see her feet.
Yes, the first time I went to the beach with my husband, he asked me to put my feet in the sand.
It's brutal on your body. It really is.
Yeah, they're not pretty, not at all. Yeah, so that is one thing that's very true to life for sure. Even though what you said before made me think of, I would say there was one part of the book that everyone who wasn't a dancer was sure was exaggerated, or they thought it didn't work. My character is obsessed with her weight. And a lot of early readers thought that it was too much. Why is she always thinking about her weight? Why is she always thinking about what she's eating? Is there something wrong with her? And I realized then, and I do now for all of the subsequent books, I explain that if she gains weight, it's written into her contract. If she gains weight, she will lose her job. So the first thing that will happen is someone will say a nice word or two, and then you'll be called in by the director for what is known as the fat talk, which is a lovely term for total humiliation.
Especially as it's maybe between 99 pounds and 100.
Exactly. We're talking about at 5 pounds and you're in for the fat talk. And if you don't lose the weight, you will lose the job. So
Yeah.
that was one thing that I did not make explicit enough in the first book, but I do more explaining about that in further books, just so people will understand why it's so important to her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a obsessive compulsive eating disorder or anything like that. It's what you do if this is your profession. So yeah.
Yes, that's her job.
Mhm.
How she
Yeah,
looks is
well, and just I don't think people realize it's like dancers will go and they'll rehearse for their 8-hour workday, and then all of them go to the gym after that. It's like just exhausting, and you have to pick your fuel very, very carefully. Yeah,
yes,
that's a good one.
that's why she knows the exact number of calories and carbohydrates in every bite that she puts in her mouth, and has become really good at adding 3-digit numbers in her head. So, yeah, so I gave her that at least.
Yeah, I think there's one point in the book where she's like, I'm going to indulge in, and it was just something like a macchiato or something like that. It was just, but she's like, I might lose my job anyway. I'm going to have this something everybody just has every single day.
Yes. Yeah, I think each book I give her one food that she's dying to eat, and she just goes ahead and has it anyway.
Okay, so one of the things I wanted to talk about is how competitive the dance world is, because it's you there are a lot of, I mean, just the food itself, not to mention, you know, the discipline and keeping your body a well-oiled machine. So it is very competitive, and this will bring out the good in people, but it also can bring out some bad qualities in people. And so when you were dancing, did you have like a support system that you could always count on?
I'm Yes.
Good.
The reason why the reason why I hesitated, well, first of all, my best friends then, and probably now as well, I have a huge group of retired dancers, and I see them 3 or 4 times a week in class. But the reason why I just hesitated for a moment is because um, you know, you're on tour, or maybe you're dancing with different companies at different times. So a support system that follows you from, oh, Iowa to Miami and so on, that you might not have,
Yeah,
but there are always very supportive people within whatever group you happen to be.
that's
And
cool.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think really important to have when you're working that hard. There needs to be somebody who's going to say a nice word.
Yes, the competition does not go away though. It really doesn't. It's much nicer in the crime fiction community where everyone who's doing well, you're just thrilled for them. I just feel like it's a lot, it's still high stakes, but the ballet world, you're so limited. There are hundreds of dancers for each opening in a company. There are
Mhm.
dozens of dancers in the company for each role. How many of them will be renewed at the end of the season? So there is all of that. Whereas in the crime fiction community, here we are having a wonderful time together.
You know, it's one of the things I have enjoyed most about being an author is the conferences, and you know, I'm a actually relatively quiet, shy person. And the first time I went to a conference, I'm like, I'll just hide in my room. And I didn't. I met such wonderful people and we had such a good time. And yeah, it's really wonderful how supportive the especially mystery writer community is. But
Yes, the first thing you find out at a conference is that there are hundreds of closet introverts, just like you, who are forcing themselves to leave their room. And we're all together at kind of having the same struggle. And so it's a great experience from that point of view. Not that I don't still get nervous every time. I totally do.
every time. Wow, sorry, I just pardon me. I just swallowed wrong. Oh, all right. So, you open every chapter with a dance quote, and my favorite was George Bernard Shaw because I'm a theater person, which was, if you can't get rid of the family skeleton, you may as well make it dance. And I loved that. How many of these dance quotes did you already like have buzzing around your head? And how many did you discover doing research and think, oh, that's perfect for this chapter?
Yes, the idea of doing the quotations, that the dance related quotations, probably part of that is also from my English teacher and writing background. Um, George Balanchine's very famous quotation was, now I make sure I get it right. I don't want dancers who want to dance. I want dancers who have to dance. And that kind of like just kind of set me off. Now that I am writing book 5, yes, I'm really digging deep because I don't just want something that has the word dance or ballet in it. I want
Mhm.
something that is resonating within the chapter that I'm writing. So, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
our company did the Balanchine's Brandenburg,
Concerto, yeah.
and we had to have a Balanchine, dance coach come in and coach everyone. And one of the quotes I remember somebody saying was that he yelled at a male dancer. It's like, you are here to support her. She is the flower, you are the pot. And I thought that was hilarious. And I don't know if that's like, it's probably muddled a little, but that always stuck with me.
No, but that was very Balanchine. He famously said, ballet is a woman. So not everyone feels that way, but if you look at his ballets, yes, every ballet is an homage to a beautiful woman. So, and he did have quite a few wives himself. So,
and they are just so beautiful to look at. Just, I still, decades later, when I hear a Brandenburg Concerti, I just see this blue tulle and beautiful women, and it just pops into my head.
yeah, that connection between the music and the dance is something that stays with you forever. If I hear music, I will see the dance. If I've been in a ballet, or even if I've just viewed it, it's just there in the back of my mind.
Yeah,
Sure.
it's almost like a primal connection, music and the dance and the who we are as people. All right, so I wrote this question down, and because I didn't know this, what will happen to your naming convention after book 5? Because I knew there were just 5 positions for the feet, but you've already said there are 5 positions for the arms. So what will happen after book 10?
No, well, the thing is, though, I mean, it's just murder in first, second, and third, like that. So I just would like everyone listening to know that I am open to suggestions. I mean, because technically there's a 6th position, and that's when your feet are in like parallel to each other, but that feels like cheating. I might name it murder in parallel position, but 100% I am open to other ideas about this. I just really regret starting it in first position. So,
Well, I mean, Murder in Arabesque, I think it would be a lovely title.
done.
And also just a gorgeous cover. I can see your book covers in the background, and they're all so beautiful to look at. Just
Yeah, I love them.
So a dancer's career, as we've kind of been mentioning, is brutally short. And usually when somebody reaches 30, they're sort of quietly pushed out. So what did you do after you stopped dancing? You've already told us that you became an English teacher. And how does this influence your other mystery series?
Oh, well, my other mystery series is called the Masterclass Mysteries. So on that, I drew upon many years as an English teacher. I am a hardcore armchair detective. So I went to town in those books in terms of dropping clues and red herrings. In those books, well, the first one, Lesson Plan for Murder, the title of every chapter is the title of a famous book. And it's also a coded clue to unraveling the mystery, or it is a red herring. And yeah, I made life very difficult for myself by setting up.
I was going to say that's easy to do for one book, but once you're on book like 8,
Yes.
you have to read more books.
So I became a dancer. I got married. I had a very large family and became an English teacher, did not dance for over 20 years. And then when my youngest son graduated from high school, people said, "What are you going to do?" As if I were doing nothing
Right.
with a full-time job and 6 kids to raise. And I just said, I'm going to go back to dancing and write a book.
And we're glad
And
you
so,
did.
and there you go. Yes. And that I guess, as I said before, I think probably I'm on a minimum of my third act, and true to form, a late bloomer all the way. So
Um, so what is next for you and for Leah, and also for your other series? What can we look
yes.
forward to?
Okay, so for my masterclass series, Study Guide for Murder, which I'm very excited about, that will release in August. Leah's Fifth Position is coming out later this year. And I've put her in a slightly different setting, kind of challenged her in a different way for this one. So this has been a lot of fun to write. I have 2 short stories coming out. One in the Mystery Most International, and the other one in my New York Sisters in Crime anthology, A New York State of Crime. And in my spare time, I'm working on a thriller.
Oh,
So
exciting.
that I am very excited. You know, I think it's very fun, as you know, to write series and to be with the characters you love. And but it's also, this is I think what draws me sometimes to writing short stories, is to just do something completely different. And it was a short story that I wrote last year that inspired me to just take it and turn it into a novel.
Oh, that's
And
very fun.
yeah.
And finally, for our fans, where can they find you, your social medias?
Yes, well, I am, as you might expect, at lorirobbins.com. And all the links to my social media are there. You can contact me, but I'm definitely going to put out a call, because I've just started a newsletter, which is not anything that looks like a newsletter. It's called the Great Books Guide, and it's not exactly a newsletter. It's more like a humorous advice column. And
Wonderful.
yeah, so true to form, it's filled with quotations from like Euripides and Shakespeare and Jane Austen and Agatha Christie. And the February was on the topic of love. So, and I think the next one will be in April on the topic of money.
Awesome. That sounds great. All right. Well, thank you, Lori, so much for being here. And thank you to our fans for watching Blackbird Writers Presents Author Interviews.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun. It was great.
I'm so glad you could make it.